Okay, today we are tearing into a piece of gear that, I still think is totally bonkers. It lets your guitar sound like an entire keyboard rig. We're talking about the Electro Harmonix C9 organ machine.
It really is more than just an effect, isn't it? It's a full-on instrument emulator. And what's really key to get is that the C9, which EHX put out in 2015, it wasn't just like a sequel to the B9 organ machine.
Right.
It was the big expansion. The B9 was almost all about those classic Hammond B3 sounds.
The iconic ones.
Exactly. The C9 was kind of EHX saying, okay, hold my beer. We can emulate all the essential keyboard sounds from rock history.
So that's our mission today. We're going deep into this C9. We want to pull out the most important bits about its tech, the POG stuff underneath it all, and we're definitely going to spend time on the 9 voices because the names alone are just packed with rock and roll history. And we'll figure out how this one pedal really cemented the whole Electro Harmonix 9 series thing.
Yeah, let's plug in. Find the right sound.
Okay, let's unpack the timeline a bit. B9 lands in 2014. Huge success, right? People loved it.
Oh, absolutely. It proved the concept.
Then just a year later, 2015, the C9 drops. Why so soon? Why 2 separate pedals? Couldn't they have just, crammed all the sounds into one bigger B9 or something?
That's a really good question. And I think it points to their strategy at the time. If they'd put everything in one box right away, it might have felt a bit diluted.
Less focus.
Yeah, exactly. The B9 was the specialist, the master of that B3 sound. The C9 was more like the generalist, but a focused generalist, if that makes sense. It specifically brought in totally new sounds like that bright, cutting Vox Continental sound.
Oh, the Doors sound.
Right, and those breathy mellotron flutes and other classic organs that were huge and like psychedelic rock, prog, garage rock sounds the B9 didn't really touch.
So that deliberate expansion, recognizing the tech could do way more than just Hammond sounds. That really set the blueprint for everything else.
Absolutely. The success of both the B9 and the C9 together, that created the strong foundation. That's what let EHX build out the whole 9 series line that came later. You got the Key 9 for electric pianos.
Rhodes and Morless.
Yep. The MEL 9, which focused just on mellotron sounds, and the Synth 9 for, analog synth emulations. It was a huge signal of where they were heading.
And physically, they kept it familiar. Same XO size box as the B9, which, for anyone not familiar, it's EHX sort of standard, slightly larger pedal size, but still fits on a board.
Totally pedal board friendly.
And standard 9-volt DC power. No weird adapters, no giant rack thing. Kept it simple, so the focus stayed on the sound transformation.
Pure utility. Smart move.
Which brings us right to the engine room, the tech, making this magic happen, because this isn't just some fancy EQ filter. The C9's got a digital signal processing core, and it's directly pulled from the POG, right, the polyphonic octave generator.
That's the absolute core insight, yeah. The POG's architecture is famous for tracking really, really well. When you play a complex chord on guitar, a lot of older pitch shifters or emulators, they just kind of freak out.
With glitchy turn in the bud.
Exactly. Muddy mess. But the POG architecture handles polyphony multiple notes at once with incredible clarity.
So EHX took that core brain, which is great at hearing all the strings on a guitar, and basically taught it to speak organ. Tuned the algorithm specifically to output the right musical intervals and the complex harmonic layers you need for an organ sound.
Precisely. Organ sounds are built from specific combinations, drawbar settings representing fifths, fourths, octaves. They all need to sound together instantly musically. By using the POG's digital accuracy, EHX made sure that when you hit, say, a big C major chord on your guitar, the C9 puts out a coherent musical organ chord, not just digital noise. It's that perfect marriage of digital power and vintage musical feel.
Okay, so to shape these complex sounds, you need controls. Let's break down the 4 knobs on the C9. They look simple, but they do a lot.
Yeah, the first 2 are pretty straightforward. Your level controls. You've got dry, which is just the volume of your clean, unaffected guitar signal.
Which is crucial if you want to blend, right? Layer the organ underneath.
Totally, for texture. Then the organ knob is just the volume of the actual effect sound. Pretty standard stuff.
But the other 2 knobs, mod and click, that's where it gets more interesting, more contextual.
Right.
Tell us about the mod knob.
Right, so the mod knob adjusts modulation depth. But what's clever is EHX didn't just wire it to one thing, like chorus or whatever. It changes its function depending on the preset you've chosen.
Oh.
So on one preset, mod might control the speed of a virtual Leslie, that rotary speaker effect. On another, it might be the depth of a vibrato or maybe the intensity of a tremolo. It adapts to match the vintage keyboard it's emulating.
Very smart. And the last knob, click.
So the click knob, On some presets, it adjusts that percussive attack sound you get from like a real Hammond organ when you first hit a key. Keyboard players call it key click.
That little sharp thwack at the start.
Yeah, that distinct punchy attack. It gives it that immediate feel. On other presets where key click isn't really relevant, the click knob often works more like a general tone control. Maybe adjusting the high frequency content lets you make the sound brighter and more cutting, or maybe darker and smoother.
That detail, capturing the key click, that's what makes it feel more like an instrument, not just a generic effect. But I gotta ask about tracking. That's always the hurdle with this stuff, right? Guitar into a digital brain. How fast and clean did this POG tech handle, say, complex chords or faster riffs? Did users find limits? Maybe different pickups reacted differently?
Yeah, that's always the trade-off, isn't it? Generally, the C9 gets high marks for its tracking speed. It's really quite good. But, the faster and maybe the dirtier the guitar signal you seed it, the more chance you have of hearing some digital weirdness, some artifacts. Most people found the best results using, say, humbuckers in the neck position or just clean single-coil tones. Avoiding lots of distortion before the C9 helps a lot.
Keep the input signal clean.
Exactly. It tracks chords beautifully, complex voicings too, as long as the signal is reasonably clean and you're not trying to play, like, insanely fast shred lines through it. It kind of encourages you to adjust your playing style a bit, maybe favor legato, cleaner picking, which actually suits organ playing quite well, doesn't it?
That makes total sense. Play to the pedal a bit. Okay, we've seen the engine, we've seen the controls, but the real fun is picking a destination. 9 voices. And EHX wasn't subtle with these names, were they?
Yeah.
This is where it gets really good, because these aren't just generic labels. They're specific nods to music history.
Oh, completely. The names are like a little code for players who grew up listening to prog rock, psych, garage rock. Because the presets nail those sounds and sometimes even name check the artists.
All right, let's dive into these 9 presets. Preset 1, tone wheel. Seems foundational.
It is. That's your baseline. If you're doing an organ emulator, you have to start with that classic Hammond B3 sound. It gives you that full, rich, slightly gritty tone. Perfect for blues, jazz, rock. It's the standard everyone compares against.
Makes sense. Okay, preset 2 is just called prog.
And it sounds huge. Think Rick Wakeman with Yes or Keith Emerson, that massive, layered, sustained organ sound that defines 70s progressive rock.
Big solos, epic chords.
Totally. Designed for complex stuff, high energy. And on this preset, the mod knob usually gives you this deep vibrato or maybe a swirling chorus, just making it sound even bigger.
Preset 3. Compact.
Now we're stepping back to the 60s. This is a direct shot at emulating the Vox Continental.
Instantly recognizable. Like I said, the Doors, but also tons of garage band, psychedelic hits.
Exactly. It's thinner than the tone wheel, brighter, got that kind of reedy, buzzy quality, instantly evokes that retro, slightly raw vibe.
Cool. Moving on, preset 4 is shimmer. This sounds different.
Yeah, this one's a bit of an outlier in a good way. It takes a core organ sound and blends it with this high octave shimmer effect. Gives it these really ethereal, sparkling, almost angelic qualities. This one became an instant favorite for like ambient players, shoegaze bands, anyone wanting that soaring high frequency texture.
Okay, preset 5. Arguably the most blatant reference, Lord Purple.
Huh. Yeah, they weren't exactly subtle there, were they? This is that cutting, aggressive, really deep Hammond tone. It's explicitly going for the sound John Lord got with Deep Purple, running his B3 often through Marshall amp.
That distorted, roaring organ sound.
That's the one. This preset is designed to handle gain, to sound genuinely mean. This was a direct appeal to hard rock guitarists. Showed the pedal wasn't just for clean sounds.
Brilliant. Preset 6, mellow flutes. This one almost feels like a preview of another pedal.
It really does. And it's a beautiful sound. It's an emulation of Mellotron flutes. The Mellotron, famous for that unique tape loop sound. This preset captures that breathy, slightly wobbly, melancholic flute quality perfectly. It was basically a sneak peek, a nod towards the dedicated MLL9 pedal that came later.
Preset 7 is called Blimp. Another rock reference.
But yeah, another great one. Think Led Zeppelin. This is a massive, almost cathedral-like organ pad sound designed for those huge, dramatic soundscapes, layered textures. It's very different from the tone wheel setting. Blimp sounds enormous, ambient, like it's filling a stadium.
Nice contrast. Okay, preset 8, press tone.
This one takes you back to the mid to late 60s again. It's aiming for that classic transistor organ sound, slightly thinner, sometimes a bit buzzy, defined a lot of pop and rock from that era. Less warm than a Hammond, maybe more chimey, sometimes a bit aggressive.
Gotcha. And wrapping up the 9, preset 9 is Telstar.
named, of course, after the Tornado's massive instrumental hit from '62. This gives you that very specific early '60s combo organ vibe. Highly atmospheric. If you want that authentic retro sound, that early British invasion feel, that's the preset. It sounds really distinct, almost like a weird harpsichord crossed with an organ.
Wow. Okay, so 9 incredible voices, all dripping with history. Everything from Deep Purple's roar to ambient shimmer. What did this actually mean for musicians out there? Why did people latch on to the C9 so quickly?
Well, the practical uses were just huge. For gigging guitarists, especially guys in cover bands or maybe power trios,
Yeah.
it meant they could suddenly cover specific organ and keyboard parts convincingly. You didn't need to hire a keyboard player anymore, or worse, try and lug around a real B3 or a Vox Continental.
Instant versatility right out of the box.
Exactly, gig-ready sounds. And it wasn't just guitarists, surprisingly. Bass players found a really cool niche for it.
Oh, really? How so?
By running their bass through the C9, maybe blending in some of the lower organ tones, they could create these absolutely massive resonant soundscapes. Fills out the low end in a mix way beyond what a simple chorus or even fuzz could do. Makes the bass feel almost like, well, like giant organ pipes sometimes.
Huh, I never thought of that. That's clever.
And then, of course, studio folks loved it for the efficiency and the sound quality. You could add those crucial organ textures, the B3 grit for a rock track, maybe the mellow flutes for something atmospheric, without needing the actual vintage keyboard, which saves huge amounts of time, space, and money.
It's efficient, but it sounds good. That's the key combo.
That's the magic combination, yeah.
So if we zoom out a bit, connect this back to EHX's history. What's the C9's ultimate legacy? What did it really achieve for them?
I think it proved beyond any doubt that the 9 series wasn't just a fluke, it was a sustainable, serious product line. It took the B9's success and blew it wide open into a whole market category for instrument emulation. And by including those really specific, instantly recognizable rock tones, Lord Purple, Blimpit grabbed the attention of the rock and prog communities directly. It showed this wasn't just a novelty toy, it was a serious creative tool.
It basically helped EHX kind of own that instrument emulation pedal market, didn't it? They got ahead of the curve by focusing on really authentic sounds, not just generic modeling.
Exactly. They moved ahead of competitors in that specific niche. And maybe most importantly, it really showcased EHX's skill at blending that cutting-edge digital DSP, the precision, with real musical soul, real authenticity. These weren't just sounds like an organ approximations that felt synthesized. They were widely praised as musically convincing, authentic sounds. And the fact that the C9 is still in production today, selling well alongside the B9, that just cements its value. It's seen as a serious, almost indispensable tool for working musicians, both live and in the studio.
That is an incredible journey. From that powerful POG core technology all the way through to those killer rock presets that just scream history. It really does pack a huge slice of music history into one little songbox.
It really does. And what's fascinating, I think, is how the C9 proved that modern digital tech could capture the soul, the vibe, even the imperfections of those beloved vintage instruments, which maybe raises an interesting question for you, the listener, to think about. Here you have this digital box, right? Successfully modeling instruments made of wood, tubes, wires, aged electronics. What does it really mean for making music when one compact pedal can convincingly replace this whole heavy, expensive history of instruments, making these iconic sounds suddenly available, democratized for pretty much any musician?
Definitely something to chew on. Go explore those sounds. Dive into the rest of the 9 series if you get a chance, and just hear how deep that rabbit hole goes when your guitar can become, well, almost anything. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.